open arms again. Oh, yeah, yeah. Zooba-dooba-doo. Zooba-dooba-doo-doo-doo, yeah. Ooh, 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 well, here I am. Well, if you need someone to lean on, or one more night to dream on, yeah, if you need a hand to hold on to, well, here I am. Well, here I am. You got my number, and here I am. Woo! Yeah. Country for country, right?
Country for country.
There you go.
Jon Butcher, that just about says it all.
Yeah, you know, you and I are songwriters.
I was going to say, if you didn't write that song about you, you
No,
wrote it about
I
me.
did, yeah. You know what? I moved to California, and I went there to do a record, and I stayed for 28 years. What happened? I lost track of time.
You must have liked it there.
Yeah, you know, what happens, you buy a house, and you change your life and settle down, and I had 5 dogs, and I got married and all that stuff, and so it seemed like, well, that was the last stop. I really thought that was where I was going to settle. And life has a way of throwing curveballs, right? And that's what happened, which led me to move back to New England after 28 years.
You've got an amazing, interesting life. You've been playing for years, and we go way back.
We do.
This guitar was owned by both of us.
I know.
How about that, folks?
Yeah.
John owned this guitar first, and I bought it from a music store that he traded into.
Both Allen and I think, are gear, what would you call it? It's not gear sluts. I mean,
That's pretty close. GS.
all of this time, I haven't yet lost any of my enthusiasm or affection for looking for guitars and pedals and
Oh, yeah.
amps.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I still feel it like I was 18 years old. So I guess
And then
I'm
you
a
hear
gear
something
slut.
new, and you go, how did they get that
You're
sound?
exactly
And
right,
you gotta
yeah.
chase it down,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah. I've chased down many a guitar myself. So.
So I remember you all the way back, and some of the viewing audience is going to remember all the way back to bands like Joe Hannah Wild, Jon Butcher Axis.
Yeah.
I mean, what a run you had in Boston years and years back with the old Channel and
What luck,
Paradise.
huh?
And can
What-
we just kind of go back a little bit to kind of get started?
Yeah,
Because
I-
this part of the show, I like to talk a little bit about a history. I know it would be impossible to contain everything in a little bit of a segment, but
I was lucky. I came to Boston to go to college from Pennsylvania, right? And I went to a college in Kenmore Square that's not even there anymore, Graham Junior College. Me and Johnny A. went there, the guitar player.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be a journalist. That's where I thought my career path was going to lie. Nothing ever works that you plan.
Yeah.
So I fell in with some musicians at college, and one thing led to another, and they said, well, do you want to be in the band? And I said, well, sure. I'd never been in a band before.
Yeah.
So let's give that a shot. And that sort of, I never looked back. You know, I got lucky with some songs on BCN and had them play a tape instead of a record. I had no record deal at that time.
But you know, back then there was such a thriving,
Yeah.
like there is here in Gloucester, but there was such a thriving Boston music scene.
I know.
And the radio stations were so supportive of
I
everybody out
know.
there.
That's the one thing I missed the most.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved back, Alan, after being gone for so long, from living in California, the first thing I asked about was WBCN and what was the state of that. And everybody would just shake their head and sort of look down and go, well, what happened?
Yeah.
And they completely changed their format, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the things that, you know, the signposts that meant Boston to me, WBCN being one of them, changed. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the nature
It
of things.
became
though,
talk
right?
radio, sort of like reality radio,
Yeah.
like MTV changed to that kind of format too. And it just seemed like like a younger generation.
Without that support, though, I wouldn't have been able to do any of it. Without them being there and being a conduit to get music heard by out-of-towners and locals alike, I would never have had the lucky streak that I had.
Well, let me ask you a question about, because I know I watched you were going all the way up, you were playing every college, you had records out, you were doing videos.
Yeah.
You still can go on jonbutcher.com and you can see videos from the 80s.
Oh, please don't do that. Yeah.
They're great.
Don't blame me for the 80s, Alan. I didn't do it.
You were just holding on for dear life like all of us,
Yeah,
I think.
I know.
But
I
it
hear
was
somebody laughing in the
wonderful
control
stuff.
room.
And my old buddy Chris Martin playing bass with
Yeah.
you. But I mean, what Back then, where did you finally hit this kind of like, if you will, a plateau where you decided, I don't think here this is going to go any farther and I need to change something or other?
I just finished doing a world tour with the Giles Band. They released Freeze Frame, right?
Yeah.
And
Big hits off of it.
Yeah. And so when we started out, I didn't have a record deal, and I came back and we got signed to Polygram and all that stuff happened right after that tour. But even then, I realized that you can feel the sand beneath your feet shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and I noticed that there weren't as many venues as there were. You know, I remember playing Mr. C's Rock Palace and all sorts of great places to play live, and they were becoming less and less. And I thought, well, maybe it's time to broaden your horizons. The most successful musicians are the ones who reinvent themselves and are willing to take another look at yourself and go, well, what else do I do? Or what else can I contribute?
Yeah.
And
or
that's
how can I be fluid to move with the
exactly right.
times?
How can I exactly fluid?
Yeah.
So I decided that I really liked the film music business. I was going to. I naively thought, well, I'll just go out to California and make it work. And it wasn't that simple. But again, I had a couple of great breaks, and that's what led me to having that career in film music.
So you broke up your band out here and you went out there by yourself. Obviously, you must have made some contacts out there at this point.
Yeah, ostensibly to do a record, but you know, you meet people and you network, and so I was lucky. I met a guy at Fox Television who was a fan of mine from Boston. He says, "Oh, would you be interested in doing this the network premiere music every year, every fall? Networks do a whole rollout of what their shows are going to be." And in this case, there was a musical theme, so he said, well, would you like to write it? And I said, well, sure. You know, what's the bread like? And the bread was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And it turned out so well that they asked me to be in the promo with Homer and Bart Simpson, so you can go and Google that and see that. It's crazy, yeah.
See, so go on his website and check this stuff out.
And so that was the beginning of being able to provide music for television series and cable television, series television, that sort of thing.
What a switch that must have been, because all of a sudden you had to start writing from a theme that was presented to you instead of just like what was ever going on in your life, right?
Actually, at the beginning, I had built up such a library of music that it was easy to sort of, instead of custom tailor-make stuff, I hadn't gotten really that to scoring yet. I provided stuff that I'd written for one record or another that didn't land, or that didn't get placed on a record.
Yep.
And then it was shortly thereafter that I was asked to do customs, which means designing something from the image that you see on the screen.
Well, this is such a great segue to what I know is going to be your second song, which you invited me to play mandolin on, and thank you for that. But you went and you started writing music, and you actually acted in the HBO series Deadwood, right?
Well, acted. I got in the first episode of the series, I got to do a sort of cameo as the town knife sharpener. So